So here we are. May drop-in session is a go, and I hand over to Diana to introduce our guest speaker for today.
Good morning, everybody. I will introduce Mellanie, and while I'll introduce Mellanie, I'll stop sharing screen so that she can start sharing her presentation, just in case this takes a minute longer. Okay, Mellanie, I've stopped sharing my screen. I will share my screen. Yes, okay. So while you do that, I'm gonna say a few words about Mellanie. So Mellanie is a data steward at the Open University in the Netherlands. The Open University has research aimed at 5 areas: psychology, management, law, education science, humanities, and science. Seems to be computer, information and environmental sciences mainly. After finishing her PhD in pediatric rehabilitation, she started working as a data steward in June 2020. She has the honor of being the first and only data steward working at the Open University. She's involved at the moment in policy writing, research data management training, and research support. She also acts as a consultant for ethical reviews, consultant for research IT tools, and also as a temporary open science officer. So now I'll hand over to Mellanie, who will talk to us about research data management at the Open University in general, and where DMPonline is a tool they use, but in general, she will talk about how they manage data at Open University Netherlands.
Thank you for the introduction, Diana. Welcome to my presentation about research data management. I will tell something about the data management in general, since we are a very small university and little users of DMPonline, but I will come back to that later. First, I will give you some background information about the Open University. It's a really small university, and it's dedicated to online education and research. The head office is located in Heerlen in the south of the Netherlands, but we have multiple study centers throughout the Netherlands. We have approximately 17,000 students who all have online education, so we don't have a campus where they go to study. And the education exists of bachelor, master programs, or individual courses. And we have approximately 700 employees, of which around 300 are involved in research. So we have a little research group. And as Diana already said, the education and research is aimed at those 6 areas. And I will tell you something about the time frame of how data management evolved within the Open University. In June 2020, I got hired as a data steward. And this was a new position within the university, so I had to begin from scratch. I immediately noticed that we had an outdated and incomplete research data management policy. So the first thing I needed to do was to update that policy and to make it a complete policy. Therefore, we wanted to develop a tool for research data management to support researchers. So we didn't want a stiff, rigid document, policy document. However, there was a lot of resistance from the researchers to comply with all the new updated data management laws and regulations. They all saw it as an additional administrative work. So to meet the needs of the researchers and hopefully to limit the resistance, we created a resource data management sounding board group, which consisted of 1 or 2 researchers from each faculty. And we discussed the development of the tool, and many meetings and feedback rounds later, we had the research data management matrix. And this I will explain in detail, because this is actually our policy. Yeah, instead of a rigid policy document, we created a step-by-step guideline for researchers and also students to comply with the current laws and regulations. For example, the GDPR, the Code of Conduct for Research Integrity, the Open Science Principles, FAIR data, and also the regular Open University policy. Unfortunately, it's in Dutch, but this is a small example of how the matrix looks like. The matrix outlines which aspects of the laws and regulations should be considered and provides a guideline for the interpretation. We divided the matrix in 3 phases, before, during, and after the data collection. And the first column describes which actions are prescribed. The second column describes the purpose of that action. And the third column provides a guideline of that action. And for the research that takes place within the Open University, we can have a subdivision, research without personal data and research with personal data. And that the actions may differ for those types of research, and that this is indicated with a symbol in the first column. And also the guideline may differ in each type of research. So this is a very general policy actually. But the researchers can always contact me if they want a more specific action or guideline which is suitable for their research. Several topics are included in the matrix. Data management plan, the collection and processing of personal data. How to collect and process the personal data if needed, and where and for how long the data needs to be stored, when and how data should be archived, and software recommendations, which can be used during the research projects. As I mentioned before, we are a very small university with a little research group compared to other universities. And this is also shown in the uses of DMPonline. Around July 2020, we launched DMPonline. And at this moment, we have only 30 users and only 22 plans have been created. I have to say that creating data management plans is not yet mandatory at the Open University. The research only use DMPonline if it is a requirement of the funder, and therefore most plans are created for funders like NWO and ZonMW, large Dutch organizations. But despite the fact that DMPonline is little used, we did create an Open University template, and therefore we merged the questions of the core funders of the NWO and ZonMW. I also added institutional guidance and example text for each questions. And I did this in the Open University template, but I also did this in the individual templates of the core funders. The Open University template is, however, not yet reviewed or approved, but yeah, this might be a next step. But we have some other development. We actually incorporated a data management plan into an online platform for ethics review. So for each research that needs to have an ethical review, a data management plan has to be created. We have two different plans. We have a long version, which is very similar to the template within DMPonline. This is for all the new research projects or research in which new data is generated. But we also have a short checklist. This checklist includes facts about the data management policy. And this is for student research or research which uses anonymous secondary data. And yeah, here also the topics of data collection, the storing, archiving, and also the sharing are included. And that leads me to the struggles and questions that we are dealing with at the moment. And I only picked these two because I think it's the most relevant ones to discuss here. We are questioning if we should make a DMP obligatory for everyone instead of only the ethics online platform, and if we should only use that platform or just use DMPonline, that we direct the students and researchers to DMPonline. And also we are struggling with the resistance of researchers to comply to the data management policy. So yeah, how do we motivate them, and keeping in mind that I am the only one, the only data steward within our organization. So I have to make all those 300 researchers enthusiastic about data management. I hope someone can provide me with some helpful options. And also thank you for listening. I will go back to this one.
Thank you for introducing us. That was a really good overview. And I'm impressed that it only took you half a year to get started to presenting a matrix, especially that with that much actually researcher consultation in between. I think that is a really good achievement, just coming in, getting going. So that part is impressive, I have to say. I don't know if there are any questions from, we have hands raised. Petra, shoot with either questions or comments.
Just a comment. I recognize your struggles on how to make the researchers, to get them motivated to comply to the data management policy. We have the same at the LUMC in Leiden. And what we did is we made sure that we got the support of the Board of Governors and also all our department heads, so that we could use those to motivate our researchers to comply to the policy, because they simply have to.
Yes, we we have research coordinators here of each faculty. Most of them are willing to help, but also especially the faculty of law, it's very hard to motivate.
Mm-hmm.
They simply say we don't use data. The rules don't apply to us.
everyone is generating
Yes,
data in any
yes.
kind of form. So,
Therefore, yeah.
but
Yeah.
if you need help, just send me an email. I'll be more than happy to help you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that definitely sounds familiar. That law never
Yeah.
does data.
Yeah, and
then
I was wondering if making a data management plan, is that obligatory in each other institution, or do you also leave it open to the researcher themselves?
Yeah, Miriam has her hand up. I think we probably have like quite some institutions here that have different approaches, but yeah, Miriam, go.
Yeah, we have a bit of both. It's mandatory for certain types of research, obviously for the funder studies, but also for the PhDs. All have to record the data management activities in the data management plan. So it's obligatory for that PhD track and for the human-based research. So the studies that have to fall under the VMO, the Human Subject Act. So these are obligatory, and the rest of the non-VMO studies and fundamental research will follow as soon as we have a grown-up, mature data steward network in place. So I'm sure that you yourself cannot serve or cater for 300 researchers, because if it's obliged, then you have to support them fully. And we acknowledge that also. So as soon as we have a good data steward network, then that should be sufficient support to make the DMP mandatory. So it's a bit of a stepwise process.
Yes, thank you.
I think Madeline is next.
I'm from the TU Delft in the Netherlands as well. Yeah, in that our institution, it's the DMPs are only mandatory when working with personal research data. But we have data stewards supporting researchers in creating a data management plan at each faculty. So I think for most of the, at least for the larger projects, always a data management plan is created. And yeah, of course we have our own data management plan template in DMPonline for that.
Thank you. This is quite nice, like just getting an overview of what everyone does, because I think, like, you know, probably collected that information through most of you presenting at some point, but we never have it like in one place. Petra again.
Yeah, at the LMC, DMPs are obligatory. We still do not check all of them, but as also what Miriam said, the human-based studies, they all have to write a DMP anyhow. And the ones that are funded by national and international subsidy organizations. And so the only projects that we have that we only recommend a DMP are student projects that last shorter than 10 weeks. And then we even recommend to write one because it's a good practice for the students. And we are currently installing data stewards on each department so that we have enough people to support them.
Yes.
Nice. Now, Joachim with a Swedish example.
Yep. Thank you. Well, yes, we're pretty much the same as others have said. We only, I mean, it's mandatory only when the funder so asks for a DMP. And currently, I think there are only 2 or 3 funders in Sweden, national funders, who demand a DMP, and then we we review only on demand, and that may be independently of whether it's mandatory or not. But we do keep track of, since we have also our own template, which is not a funder template, but it's based on and compliant with one of the biggest funder template, only that it's more machine actionable. That which is with checkboxes and multiple choice answers instead of free text mostly. So it's easier to review, and we have a schema for reviewing that and see, a semi-automatic schema, so that we can see, for example, the level of fairness that the DMP represents if carried out as planned. And we do that not on a regular basis, but after we have one of those check boxes, the DMP creator has to ascertain that the head of department has seen the DMP and approved and ascertain that it fulfills the requirements from the funder. And when that checkbox is filled, we automatically download and archive that version of the DMP as an initial version. And at the same time, we can apply this schema semi-automatically to check the level of fairness. But it's not us who decide whether to approve it or not. That's the head of department who's responsible for that. Okay, so sorry to be a bit lengthy.
No, thank you for your explanation.
I see some interesting comments in the chat box. So Edinburgh have commented that mandatory for all research doesn't mean that the research actually do it. There's still work involved in emphasizing the benefits of creating a DMP. So that work sounds as if it still needs to be done. Thank you very much for the comment. Oh, Caroline has to go. She says in Umeå and Sweden, they work pretty much like Joachim described. Sorry, are you Joachim or Joachim? I do apologize for not knowing how to pronounce. And in Soile says in Finland, DMP, it is mandatory for the biggest research funder academy in Finland. Okay, the universities have their own data management policies, and there's a comment from Wayne at Imperial College. It is a requirement for them to create DMPs. Yeah, and it's the same. That in practice, they're not mandatory unless required by funder. Have I made a correct summary here? But it sounds as if there's still a lot of convincing work to be done.
That's also good to hear, because I thought we were the only ones that were lagging behind and everything. But yeah.
I mean, like we also have like Beth saying that like Sheffield has it mandatory for PGRs. In my experience from working at a previous institution, it's easier to make it mandatory for PhD students, just because they have check-in points where they like need to go through, at least here in the UK, like after 1 year, they have kind of an approval process with their supervisor to make sure they're kind of on track. And there you can easily add in a checkbox that like, have you actually written a data management plan? It doesn't mean that that data management plan necessarily gets looked at or is any good, but you can at least gather gather some numbers that way, and that's an initial point, and that seems to be easier to do for PGRs than like trying to herd your senior PIs in an institution. I think unless you have buy-in from their heads of department and they do the work for you, that one is really hard if you're in an outside support position like a data steward. And I think that kind of covers most of the comments in the, but yeah, it's interesting to see what works in most places. And it seems to be that the PhD students one does, and funder policies do. Does it also kind of answer the second question on motivation? I think we got there a little bit. I don't know if anyone has anything to add on that. Or are there any questions for Mellanie as well? Anything that was mentioned that you would be interested in further? Yeah, motivation is always a hope that the next generation that we now are training will do a better job and will just do this automatically.
Simon, thank you for that. Simon comments from Edinburgh, can always hope that the PhDs will train their supervisors.
A lot of hopes on that new generation to fix some issues. I think like my question is potentially, I don't know if your matrix is that like publicly available, because even if it is in Dutch, I find that quite interesting, and I think potentially still an interesting document for others to look at and potentially translate if they need help to. But I think it looked good. I mean, from what you showed there, looked like really, really good work. And as I said, like I'm impressed that you managed to herd people and get that done in half a year. Is that something that is out there, or is that internal only?
No, not yet. For now it's only internal, because we have a lot of research visitations, I guess it's called, and because we're still running behind on our research data management policy, we kept it internal for now. But we have but we're willing to make it publicly available and also translate it in English. And I will then upload it to an open repository. I think Zenodo, but if it's out there, I can give a heads up, and you can all check it online.
Yeah, that would be great. I think there's probably interest in that from the community. It looked really good. So the bits that I understood, I found quite interesting. So I think there is probably an interest from the community to see that when you have that already.
Yes.
Is there any other questions, comments? You also have like a comment around like just making training sessions as engaging as possible. So that's always a good one if folks go away and they found that useful, and word spread like that. I guess that's a bit potentially harder for you if you don't have like really a campus. I don't know how word still travels and How
Yeah.
much?
We have an online data management course that is mandatory for the first year PhDs. And I also present at the faculty seminars, which are once a month. So yeah, everyone should have known about me or the matrix, but yeah, it's still a struggle.
No, that's good. And I think that's, yeah, again, sounds hard if you don't have like a campus to walk around to, if you actually need to find all those meetings and get invited to, it's definitely a, or sounds like a harder job than if you can just physically bump into some people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any further comments. So I guess with that, thank you very much, Mellanie, for introducing this. I think that's really good work. It's always hard when you're the only person trying to push things and you don't have a team or anyone to sense check. Thank you for introducing this, and I hope like it's been at least a bit helpful that the community came in and you know, told you that you're doing the right thing and you're on the right track. I think
thank you for your input and for having me.
Yeah, it's always nice to see what you are doing. So in the community and get these conversations going and, you know, compare a little bit of what works where. So really, thank you very much for being here. I think in terms of the agenda, what do we have? We have updates and questions to us in the DMPonline team. So is there anything you'd like to know from us? Joachim.
Always. Sorry for taking so much space. I just wanted to comment to Diana and all of you that I saw this about the research outputs feature, and I immediately set out to test it. And I discover some problems already, but I will give feedback, I think, when I've tested properly. So expect to get something out of this. I take it this is still only a sandbox we're working in with this feature. So it's not, I mean, it's not deployed yet.
No, it's just on our development server to allow you to play around.
So I had some, for example, I had problems logging in. I couldn't use my Stockholm University credentials as usual. I had to use the mail address and password to log into that. And also it tells me it's not a safe place to be, but I don't care.
Yeah,
it's just our test server. It's just our test server. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you can ignore that part.
I get it.
But if you're not able to access it at all, or I don't know if some institutions then block it if it's not safe. That's potentially something to look into.
Well, you get a warning, but I mean, I always
ignore it. Yeah,
disregard that if I feel comfortable that the publisher is okay, like I suppose you are. So, but one other thing about these. Actually about this DMP online drop-in sessions and also the user group, it appears I appear to be the only one at Stockholm University that get these invitations. So I'd like the other DMP, our organizational administrators to also get the invitations to these meetings, if possible. Or is
Okay,
it limited to
check.
one person per institution? No?
No, all administrators should get it. I'll check the membership of the mailing list.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Okay, I'll make a note to just all administrators should get it.
Yeah, great. So.
With regards to your comments about you know, the research outputs, you know that there is a survey and you can provide the comments there.
Yeah, I will do that too, but I'm
Okay.
not sure yet that.
If it's too much, put it in an email. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's like we
okay.
try to structure it where it can be structured, but
see.
any other ideas,
Yeah, okay,
you know, you have,
I will do that.
send us emails.
Yeah,
That's fine.
okay.
Jenny was next, I think.
Hi, so within UCD, we have a 3-year subscription for DMPonline. So this is a question both for you guys, but also for the community. I've been tasked with developing an evaluation framework to show the success of DMPonline. So when it comes to requesting further funding from the university, that we have something that we can show them. And I'm just wondering if that is something that anybody else has developed previously and has templates of that they would be willing to share with me. I'm kind of working with, there's a book that I found in the library called Evaluating the Impact of Your Library. So basically it looks at articulating the aims and the objectives of having DMPonline in place. Then the next step would be to translate those aims into possible success criteria and impact indicators, and then to look at how you would collect evidence of those success indicators. So that's kind of what I'm working with at the moment, but I'm just wondering if anybody has looked at this before, so I don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
If you are interested about Finnish DMP evaluation guidance, I sent you a link.
Oh,
you
that
can
would be
check it.
great. Yeah, I appreciate not everybody will want to share that publicly. So if anybody has something that they would like to email me or comment on separately, I'd be more than happy to hear.
Hi again. Can I just ask you, I didn't quite understand what you're asking for. You ask for evaluation how successful the DMPs produced with DMPonline are in getting funding? Or
No.
No?
So actually how successful DMPonline is within UCD. So because we will need to make the case for further funding when the 3 years comes to an end. So how we will go about evaluating how successful the tool has been within UCD. So not the DMPs themselves necessarily, but actually DMPonline.
Mm-hmm. Compared to other DMP services or?
No, just in general that we can show the impact that subscribing to DMPonline has had for our researchers, that the aims of introducing the service have been met, and these were the aims, and this is the evidence of the impact.
Okay, then I understood wrong, but we just usually check how many DMPs researchers have done, and we compare that to the amount of researchers.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Even that's really great to know.
Okay.
Yeah, impact is always difficult. And yeah, within DMPonline, you can get, you know, statistics and numbers, just not sure how meaningful they are and when you would call it a success for your own institution. I think that's for you to argue. Is it I think in combination with your policies, because you don't, it's not mandatory for anyone yet. So
Yeah.
is it then like, is 20% good if it's not mandatory? I mean, obviously, if it's mandatory, you would want
Even
100.
if it was mandatory, 20% I think would be amazing. But also in terms of, I was speaking to my manager about the fact that being able to provide all of the guidance within DMPonline should, in theory, actually cut down on the number of reviews that we receive, because we're able to provide all of the guidance in a really structured way and really support the researchers as much as possible. So that in some ways, looking at the number of reviews that we're being asked to do, a lower number actually could be an indicator of success in some ways.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. If anybody has any thoughts at any point, feel free to reach out to me.
Would be interesting to hear what you come up with if you're willing to share at the end of the
I'd be more than
process.
happy to. More than happy to share it.
Yeah, definitely an interesting question of what success looks like for a tool. Rory, you had your hand up next. I see you're unmuted, but I can't hear you for some reason. Is that only?
Better.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. Sorry about that. Yes, I noticed in it was April or May newsletter, the one that just came out, that you said that the DMP assistant team from Canada has been added to the DMP roadmap team, and it sounds positive. But could you just comment a bit on how that's how that's going to work, and does that imply closer collaboration with the DMP assistant team, or?
Yeah, basically what that means is basically more developer resource for DMP roadmap, because there's another team with that has developers that are potentially able to contribute things to the shared code base. So at the moment they're like still joining. We're figuring out how exactly we want to co-develop things, but it should be good for us, because the way they work in Canada is actually closer to how we in the DMPonline team work. So they also run it as a service for various institutions. So in that way, the setup is fairly similar to what we are doing, with the additional challenge that they are like bilingual and have to make sure that works. Everything works in two languages. So we're gonna see once we onboarded them properly. They have basically new developers joining that so far are familiarizing themselves with the code, and then it basically is again another party that can just potentially contribute new features that we then get for free, if that makes sense for DMPonline and for the roadmap base.
Yeah, that's great. So I know, like Joachim, I know it's like me, is interested in using the API to develop things. So that's really positive news. It's great to see. Yeah,
that's always good to have, like, more eyes on the things, and also highlight more use cases and figure out where things that are clear in our heads might not be so clear in other use cases. And I think it's just a way to make the code base more sound. Sorry, I'm got distracted by reading the chat. Madeline, go ahead.
Yeah, still have a question about these new features mentioned in the latest newsletter. The research outputs tab, and there is a new field in the projects details map tab where you can enter the research domain. Although you're now collecting some feedback from us, is it still the intention to enable that in June already?
Well, that's basically what we want to hear from you. If you basically say like, it causes issues for too many of you, you know, we don't have to enable it at all. If there's a majority for you that says like, we actually don't want this, we don't have to switch it on. I think but
can you switch it on or off per institution, or is it for everyone?
No,
then?
I'm like, as far as I'm aware, we can't. So that's then the thing. If you say like, if we need to figure out how to do that first, you know, then it, you know, that would be a bit of figuring out if we can do that and what it would involve. So at the moment, it's either switched on for everyone or switched off for everyone, which is why we're trying to understand, you know, does it cause you, if it causes the majority of you just problems, we don't want to switch something on that causes everyone problems.
Yeah.
If it's something that, as I said, like to Neil's comments, if you have things like that in the template and you prefer people to just continue to use that, this is then to give you time to adjust your guidance, saying there is this new thing, just ignore it. You don't have to bother with it. Everything is just covered if you answer the questions in the template. So if you just need to adjust your guidance, you have time to do that. So basically what we're trying to figure out is like how many of you would actually want this and would want to use it. How many of you actually just tell people then please ignore this.
Yeah.
And how much time do you need to get that already? Because we don't want to, you know, we don't want to cause you problems with something that is literally just a switch on, switch off, fairly easy for us to plan for. So yeah, it's this thing when we showed it, people were interested, but now when it comes to actually implementing it and working with it, it might be that when we think through your workflows, it's actually
and
not
then
something you want.
And then I think that June is quite fast then.
Yep, potentially.
But even then, I would, if we have, I think we still need some time to look into that. And then even then, if we say, enable it, then I'm quite sure we have to change some or implement some updates to our guidance or even template. I'm not sure, but I think there is some work for us as well. But I'm not sure. I didn't look into it yet. So
yeah, that's fair enough. I think like when we discussed at the user group, some people said like, oh, maybe 2 weeks might be enough. So that would be, but if you all say as like, no, it's not, from when you take the decision, you need at least give us a minimum of, especially then when we're going into the summer period, you know, less people in the office. If that is then like, you know, saying like nothing that you want before September or tell us. That's why we're asking. So we're not thinking this is something everyone has been waiting for. It's new and exciting. We're going to switch it on. And then you all come to us and say like, wait, this is not what we wanted. So this is literally, for you to tell us when this would be okay and when it causes the least issue, or if it's, you know, if it's a completely stupid idea and most of you don't want this, tell us as well. And we'll try to find the middle way.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. And I have a last question about API, because I know that in the past there were some issues with the API. I'm not sure exactly about that, but is your team still working on that, or are all issues with the API solved now? I'm not sure. I saw some updates also in a newsletter about the API, but I'm not sure if.
They have been fixed. Most issues have been fixed.
Okay.
It's just a matter of deploying them to live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we deployed any additional fixes. Need to double check that. They're definitely they are in the pipeline and potentially ready to go out. So Diana, we should probably have a quick double check with our technical team where those are.
Okay, thank you.
Joachim?
Yeah, again, first about the APIs, one thing that happened, I can tell you that we discovered is that the output from the API version 0, at least, the order of the elements has changed and it's no longer predictable. So, we fixed it locally now, since we used to have relative paths in our transformation file, which messed everything up. But now we've changed to absolute paths. But I just wonder why this happened. But it's not a big deal anymore. But what I wanted to have you either confirm or deny, because regarding these research outputs, was that the motivation for this was to, regardless of template, make every template possibly comply with the RDA DMP common standard, and to be more machine actionable this way. And as I understood it, DMP tool has already implemented this, or is that not so?
Yes, they have it. So it's a feature that comes from them.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do now, and have started to do, is to actually use this and then get the output as JSON and via the API, and then test if it actually validates against the RDA DMP common standard schema. And for that reason, I chose not to use our local template, which already produces output that validates against the DMP. But I chose another template. So that's what you'll get the results from in my feedback, just as a warning. But
could I pick up on this conversation? I wonder, this is just a suggestion for Diana and Patricia to consider. But I think there is a lot of interest in the API, and I know Joachim has worked closely with it. We've worked closely with the API in relation to our integration with DMP tool. But there's also a fair amount of confusion, as this discussion indicates, about the status of the API. And I wonder if it would be possible to form some kind of API user group to have some regular interaction, or at least some form of communication with the people that are being involved with the API development team, your technical people, because right now the communication lines are not very clear, and I know there is work going on, and hopefully, as you say, with the DMP assistant people coming in, that will be even better. But it's just a thought for you to consider, whether you might consider something like that. I would certainly be in favor of it. I'm pretty sure Joachim would be in favor of it as well.
Yeah, something for us to consider how that would look like, and how we.
It wouldn't need to be very formal or grand or take a lot of time, but just almost I don't know, just whatever I think both of us would probably be happy to chat about how that might work, and to do it in a way which minimizes time commitment from the dev team.
I'd like to add to what Madeleine just brought up about the time frame for testing here, because what we want to test too is that this new feature does not interfere with our own local template and the output that we get from there. And I'm not sure we will be able to do that on the development platform to see it in action. I don't know yet, but in any case, it will demand some time to test all possibility of getting the output right with this new feature, so that it does not interfere with the local templates. And I suppose there are others that have their own templates too that would be interested to know that.
Yes, but I think, if you can follow up on this, Joachim, that in the you can check in the research outputs tab what is asked for at the researcher then. And I think there is overlap in our template. I'm quite sure there is some overlap what is asked for in our template.
Yeah, we already have.
You don't want researchers to fill in twice the same question, and that is what we would like to check as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you saying, Joachim, you want us, like, I'm not sure what we have put down as a deadline at the moment for initial feedback, but do you want us to extend that? Like, I think we can probably should definitely, like, you know, June, beginning of June is not working. So we are gonna extend the deadline again to comms. Basically, don't worry, this thing will keep open, and you just tell us really what would work for you. Seeing as this, I definitely got that there's no urgency to switch this on. So let's just take the time, think through it properly to make sure it works for everyone. Yeah, and we'll see how we
great,
what we need to do in terms of extending any deadlines. I don't think it actually closes the survey. It would be us manually going on. Sorry, Diana?
Sorry to overlap. I don't think we gave a deadline for that survey. I may be wrong. We gave one for the events, which is 10th of June.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah. If it doesn't have one, let's say we definitely give whatever you tell us a look before the next drop-in. Is that like that? That's probably a good deadline. And also we're getting to the hour. So we should probably wrap up this discussion. But yeah, next drop-in, 22nd of June. We don't have a guest speaker, so it will just, you know, us providing you with more information anyway. And then I guess we can pick up the conversation then about what you told us about, you know, the research outputs tab, how we take that forward, and also any feedback on events that like helps us plan over the summer, and anything else. So yeah, we'll hope you have some time to give things a look in the meantime. Anything you discover, you know, let us know. And thank you so much for all your time this morning. This were two very different but interesting discussions. Thanks again, Mellanie, who had to leave already because we went into the discussion about research outputs in a bit more detail. But yeah, thank you everyone again for your time and your feedback, and see you in June, hopefully.